and we come home, and at our front door is some bizarre thing sitting at our front door. And welcome back, and not just welcome back to me and the listeners, but welcome back to Matty Johns from Paris. We're going to get into all things Paris, but Matthew, hasn't something absolutely insane happened to us the last week?
Bizarre. Totally bizarre. Right, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Right now. So, let's go back to the 2000 Olympics, Sydney Olympics. And it was huge, of course. Everyone's spoken about that. But what was equally as big was Roy and HG, Rampaging Roy Slaven, HG Nelson, had their own TV show. That basically, at the end of the events of that day and that night, they'd have a show called The Dream.
Big show.
Big show in Australia. Ended up being quite a real big cult show overseas. When we were just over in Paris, I was on a bus, and this Canadian guy goes, "Hey, those two guys, I'm just trying to," I said, "Roy and HG." He said, "Yes." He said, "That's the funniest thing I've ever seen." So anyhow, Roy and HG on the show had a mascot. He was called Fatso the Fat Ass Wombat, right out. So that mascot started gathering so much steam and momentum, it actually became the mascot of the entire Australian Olympic team. They had a mascot before there, but it's sort of phased out.
I believe they had 4 mascots that they created the Olympics, but this one actually, in terms of popularity, everyone loved Fatso.
Fatso the Fat Ass Wombat become this worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right. So what happened at the end of the Olympics? They had the stuffed one that sat there, but there were 2 monuments of Fatso. I believe Kerry Stokes, the billionaire, bought one for $80,000, and the other one was it was sitting outstairs as a monument at a core stadium.
Yes, which back then was ANZ Stadium, I believe, but it was sitting out the front until about 2010 when it went missing. Someone actually stole it, they believe.
Someone stole it. Someone got there and they actually sawed at the bottom of Fatso's feet, his shoes, and stole him off and took it. Now, people laugh at Fatso the Fat Ass Wombat, but he actually became a serious police investigation.
Yeah.
They never caught who stole it, and the whereabouts of Fatso the Fat Ass Wombat no one has known.
Yes, but this leads us into the last week, very bizarrely. Me and Jack were down getting a coffee, and we come home, and at our front door is just some sort. If you're watching on the YouTube, covered in a cloth, there was some bizarre thing sitting at our front door. And Matthew's gotten up. He's going to reveal it live on the podcast. Matthew, if you want to just smack that tarp off that indestructible thing under there.
When you guys turn up, you got no idea.
Yeah, we got no idea. And then
the boys
and the blue sheet is just covering. And there he is, Fatso, the Fat Ass Wombat. The Fat Ass Wombat was sitting at our front door, and I mean, under all circumstances, it's the one was sawed off from ANZ Stadium, and so bizarre. What a strange, bizarre turn of events. The big fella's pumped.
Okay, let's just point this out right up. So, okay, it's Fatso. The next thing you got to work out, say, is it the authentic Fatso?
Yes.
So I get in touch with HG Nelson, and I ring him. Him and Roy are about to do their podcast. He tells me, mate, they're pissing themselves laughing, going, "How did you get there?" We have no idea. Not a clue in the world. It just turned up. Someone must have been watching Matty and Missile and thought, "Oh, Matty's involved with the Olympics some way. I'll just got a guilty conscience," and just dumped him at our front door. So he said, "Matty," he said, "Oh, it's one of the monument ones." He goes, "Oh, that's unbelievable." He said, "A question, is he fiberglass?" He's fiberglass.
Yes.
He said, "Number 2, it got sawn off from the bottom of his feet."
Yeah. And as you can see on the camera there those
it
damn feet have been sawn off.
They've been sawn off.
First of all, questions that when we revealed it at the front door, the first question that me and Jack had was, what is this Fat Ass Wombat? We didn't know at the time until you told us. Second question was, why did they decide to drop it off at Matty Johns' house? We will never know.
How did they know where Matty Johns lives?
Yes.
We have not a clue why this was dropped here, who dropped it, or basically, what were their intentions. We can only explain it as guilty conscience. So there it is. So look, tomorrow night on our Thursday night show, I'm going to once again reveal this. And I'm talking to H.G. Nelson at the moment, on and off. I'd love to get him there so I can present it to H.G. live on the show.
Yeah, back to the original owners.
Yes.
But what a crazy story. What a crazy 24 years on from the 2000 Olympics and 14 years on from its missing. It's kidnapped you.
Coops, I do this mixed emotions at the moment because given the fact that Kerry Stokes paid $80,000 for the other one on the black market, who knows what Fatso could be worth?
Should we post this or should we leave this podcast?
Let's do the right thing.
Yeah,
Righto.
we will.
I'm going to put
you
Fatso
pop him back on
over.
there.
Yeah.
Wow, what a crazy time we live in.
What do you think, Jack? What's the best angle for Fatso?
There. That's good. How's that look? And we're just going to leave Fatso here while we also go through Dad's Olympic/Paris campaign. But we thought, what a great story arc and journey that this Fat Ass Wombat has been on.
He's been well kept. He's
actually a really good nick. Whoever had him,
yeah,
they looked after him.
Yeah, bravo to them.
Yeah.
Coop, I've made a few notes here about because I've got to say I was over there for about 18 days. Man, it was a lot of hard work. It went so quick. So when you asked me some of those questions, I made a few notes just to remind myself of certain things.
That's all right. Let's start off with what exactly was your role over there? Because when they said you're going over, everybody that I'd said, they're like, why are they sending your dad over there? But what exactly was your role? What were you doing?
Initially, Coop, I had no idea what my role really was going to be. I kept pressing them, saying, "What do you want me to do?" They're a little bit unsure. Look, the way it is these days, the immediacy of media is so important, and so as opposed to putting things out rather than newspapers and that, these days, the more you can deliver it electronically and immediate with the spoken word, the better. Now, Fox. We're not rights holders. What worked in our favour a lot of times is a lot of the major events happened while everyone was asleep. So when people would get up first thing in the morning and they just wanted to know everything that happened in Paris, all the events, all the colour, the excitement, the stories, then they would turn on Fox Sports or Sky News. It was used a lot across many mediums. They could watch that, and Missile and I would recap the day's events.
Well, what did you do? What was like you and the Missile? What did you get up to day to day?
Typical day.
Because it seems like that you had some long days.
Well, we get up at 7 to 7:30 most mornings and get prepared for the day's events. First thing to do would get up in the morning, and Missile and I would sit and have a look at the sheet, the day's events, and in the day we'd look to go attend one, maybe two events, and then at night we always went to the swimming. Yeah, that was the big thing, and he would he'd get up there, mate. That was one of the great things. Listen, I'll talk about that a little bit later. The nuances of Missile as far as the swimming is concerned. But yeah, you pick one or two events, go to them in the day, go to the swimming at night, and then basically record the podcast from anything from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. 10:30 p.m. to
not a lot of
12:30, 1 o'clock. The latest we did one night at 2 a.m.
Not a lot of sleep then? Am I taking that? Like that's...
Well,
was that the hardest thing?
And the other thing was along the way doing some athlete interviews as well. It was the hardest thing because I tell you the other thing, you're in a new city. Well, I've been to Paris before, but the new city is the Olympic city, and you're pumped. You want to go and have a beer. By the time we finished some nights, myself and Missile and his girlfriend Rose, it might have been Brent Reed, Pete Badel, we just go, literally have one beer, I've got to go to bed because it's on again the next day.
Yeah. I spoke to Paddy Cummins today, the Australian cricket captain. He asked about you, how you went over in Paris. And he said, he made a good point. I heard you actually say the same thing. He said, I can imagine how hard it, because there's so many obscure sports in the Olympics. Like there's so many weird games that you probably don't know like the back of your hand, like rugby league. He said it must have been tough for you to try to analyse sports that you had zero idea about.
Now, I don't want to sound like I've gone down a salt mine or a coal mine, that, it's so difficult a job. But I've got new respect for journos and people. That it was seriously hard mental work. And I got new respect for journos because journos go into a wide range of sports that they talk about. I know rugby league inside out. You can sit there and just watch the game and just write or talk about it effortlessly. There you go. What is that? That sounded effortlessly.
Yeah. Wow.
But to go, I'm going to cover the skateboarding. I'm going to do something on the some of the beach, the nuances of the beach volleyball, but just all these different events covering off.
On the events, what was your highlight? Like, what were the best ones that you went to?
Oh, some of the events went, as I said before, the swimming with the missile every night was terrific. Me, Reedy and I went to Roland Garros one day on the clay courts there. We watched Novak Djokovic play.
Oh, yeah.
And then as we were about to leave, Dave Riccio tipped off Brent Reed and said, hey, mate, you and Matty, go to one of the outside courts and watch some of the doubles. Mate, it's so intimate, you can literally reach out and grab them. So we walk into the doubles, Reedy and I, and we're looking around. All the seats were taken, except there's a few right like side of the court. We go, mate, how good is that? So we went and sat there. And I was watching, it was like a couple of German guys versus a couple of Czechs, and the Czech guy just kept staring over at me and Reedy, and I'm going, what's going on here? And I looked, we're in the family section. I was sitting with this guy, all his family. So he started stink-eyeing us, and I said, Reedy, we've got to start to, mate, act like we belong here. They're going to throw us out. So we're like, come on, son. Come on, let's pick it up. Don't give up. And we just fit in perfectly.
And they didn't kick you out?
They didn't kick us out.
Were they like a bit more obscure play? Like you didn't know who the players were?
Yeah, I didn't know who they were. It might have been number 399, number 400 in the world. Yeah. But it was still packed because people are there to see events.
Well, they love it, yeah. Were there any other ones?
Street skateboarding. Went and saw Chloe Cavell, 14. Arissa True, 14 years of old. She won the gold medal in the street skateboarding.
Yeah, she was good.
Beach volleyball, it took place under the Eiffel Tower. When saw that. Rugby sevens was really good. Rugby sevens, like the men and the women's rugby seven, because the stadiums there was packed. And sitting one day at the rugby sevens when the USA were playing, about 20 metres away from me was Jason Kelsey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was
brother
there.
of Travis Kelsey,
yes,
obviously.
He was supporting the team.
Wow. Brother-in-law to Taylor Swift.
There you go.
That's insane.
Road cycling, talking about insane, the road cycling was insane. I walked down to Montmartre, down that Moulin Rouge area, and it was like they were riding through the cobblestone streets. The French were like singing the national anthem. A few sneakies. It was a lot of fun. Mate, went 4 hours down south, went to Marseille, the great port city at the bottom in southern France, to watch the Matildas play. They took on Germany. They were beaten. Was it 2 or 3-0 by the Germans?
Yeah.
Bad result, but mate, one of the highlights was going to Marseille myself. I'd always wanted to go to Marseille. You know, south of France. You got the south of France like Saint-Tropez and Cannes and all that. But when you go around a little bit further to the left, it's like they're tougher port cities. You've got Toulon and you've got Marseille. And Marseille's got a reputation being a tough, rather dangerous town. Yeah. I didn't find it dangerous. I never felt threatened there. But what's amazing about Marseille, this is the reason why you have to go to Marseille. Marseille might sit in the south of France, but it is not a European city. What they talk about, they say, it's just like it's got the flavours and the atmosphere of North Africa, like a big North African city. And I'll be honest, I think it's... there's more than just an influence now. It felt like a Northern African city, mate. It was awesome. The food, the people, it was just always a buzz, 24 hours. You got to go to Marseille. It is so different to every other city in Europe. It's a must. It's really good.
Yeah. Is there any... Actually, I want to ask you, the dream team, the new dream team, obviously, the USA basketball team who won the gold medal, did you happen to cross paths with any of them?
No. Well, most of the time... the basketball sides were down in Lille, but the Team USA house went next to a place we went for a couple of beers one night, and there was the place we went for a couple of beers. There was talk that Snoop Dogg was going to get up and do a performance. He didn't turn up. Neither did the Dream Team.
Okay, so it was a letdown.
I saw the building they were staying in.
Oh, that's nice. What about you spoke briefly about it before going to the swimming with Missile? What was that like?
It was awesome with Missile. The only problem with Missile was that he's 6'6". You know, and I'm 6'1". Yeah. But mate,
Danny DeVito. It was like twins.
Yeah,
a lot of people. Yeah.
Early on, they said, it's all right, we'll put a box there so you can stand on it. I said, please, that's even more embarrassing, watching people go past. Yeah. And I'm standing, Mr. Short-ass, on a box, talking to Missile.
Like you've won bronze, sitting on a little podium.
Yeah, rose gold. But one of the things about James Magnuson, he's a rock star over there. We don't really appreciate it as much here, but in Europe and the US, like swimming's a really, really big deal. So you had Italians, mate, a lot of Americans coming up to Missile. Ryan Lofty, who's he came up. He was taught to missile a bit, and the last day, the people from Guatemala in Central America, they spotted missile and just come up. But sitting up with him every night, he was talking me through the swimmers, the nuances of the tumble turn, jumping in, what you can't miss. He'd just say, righto, this is where Ariane's going to win this race, and it had happened. And
wow.
the pool itself, it was amazing. The pool sits in an indoor rugby stadium. One of the biggest teams in French rugby is a Racing 92.
Yeah.
And it sits in that stadium. And so you got the swimming on, and they say the same thing with the rugby union. Excuse me.
Cool.
Is immediately it'll just go bang, it'll turn into like a nightclub atmosphere.
Wow.
Like the lighting and
right.
So that was awesome.
Can I before we go off that, the swimming what was the best event to watch? Why? Because you saw a lot of the swimming. What was the best one? Was there a specific race that stands out?
The 100-meter freestyle, men's stands out for a reason, which I'll get to a little later. But Coops, any event that Ariane or Kaylee McEwen,
Molly O'Callaghan,
all that, any event that they were in was like
crazy.
Intriguing.
Yeah,
particularly it was like sit with missile, right? It was he just points certain things out, and he'd say, right, so Katie Ledecky, who's the American legend, she was swimming there. I think it was going to be her last Olympics. Like she was winning, all these different events. Then he was like, she raced in the 1,500 meter, like 30 laps, and he was like, I said, Missile, would you ever like race in the 1,500 meters? He said, I could. He said, I raced a person who was 1,500 meter swimmer and beat him by a lap and a half. Wow. And I said, well, why didn't you, if you could do it? He said, I'll tell you why. It teaches you bad form. He said, because you're trying to conserve energy. And he said, if you swim 1,500 metres too much, it'll affect your 100, your 50 and 200. He said, for instance, look at Katie Ledecky. She's not even kicking. He said, it's bad form. It'd be like being a champion test cricketer and suddenly you start playing 2020 cricket and that creeps into your test match.
Well, I suppose like you look at events like the 100-metre freestyle, 100-metre, even the sprint, there's not much margin for error. You need to be perfect to win those because there's no room for it. There's no room to gain sort of, there's no many meters in the race to gain on the opponent if they get off to a good start.
That's
you need
right.
to start well. Your stride's got to be good and all that. Like your turn's got to be good in the
Everything's got to be perfect.
Yeah. What about the rugby league journos? Because you hung out with Miss a lot, but you're over there with, was it Brent Reid,
Peter Badel, Dave Riccio, Crash Craddock, mate, Andrew Webster. Webby was over there. But I know Webby really, really well, but the other guys I haven't spent a lot of time with. I've got to say, mate, it was fantastic.
Really?
Crash Craddock is probably, and a fella called Will Swanton, the most positive bloke you'd ever meet. Like, you see Crash on the back page, and he'll talk, and he'll talks like this. He goes, Matty, you would not believe this. What we've got coming up is going to be fantastic. You're going to be... Anyway, so one day I walk into the media centre, and poor Crash is sitting there, right, with his computer typing away. It's the only time I've ever seen Crash defeated. And I go, hey, Crash, you okay? He really looked knocked around. He goes, oh, yeah, Matty, I've hit a wall. He said, I'm just totally exhausted. At the same time, though, exhilarated.
Yeah. I did love watching him on the coverage on Fox when... because it's one thing to hear the podcast. When you see him, there was one episode you guys did where he basically just took over the whole episode, started interviewing you, and Missile was sitting there just like, what the hell is going on? Was that animated?
I'd be talking to Missile, and just behind Missile, I could see Crash, and he's ready to say something, and he'd edge closer to Missile like he was just trying to take the microphone.
Yeah. What about Peter? Yeah, I heard Pete Badel, because you and Missile were always raving that he was the Jerry Krause.
First thing, when we first arrived, the first couple of mornings at the hotel, I'm going, mate, what's going on? All you could hear in the mornings was thump, 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 thump. And we're going, mate, what the hell? What's going on here? Anyway, it turned out the people were making complaints.
Love making?
And they found it. No, it was Pete Badel doing burpees every morning.
Oh, really?
Because, mate, he runs marathons. Before they pulled it down, he snuck into the marathon running area and completed a marathon.
What?
Before they pulled all of it apart and everything. He snuck in there and did a marathon. Must have done it overnight. I've got the picture here. Where he texts me through and he goes, Matty, 3 hours, 54 minutes. But we might post that up. But the other thing about Badel, the first day, myself, Reedy, and he went for a beer. And I said to Pete, you been to Paris before? Oh, no, Matty, I haven't. I came here on a Kentucky tour. Oh, really? How old, like 18, 19? No, Matty, I was 34. He said he beat the cutoff time by a month.
Oh, my God.
The biggest story of the Olympics, Pete Badel, unintentionally became a big part of, and it was the gender debate. Is gender the right word? No. The XY chromosome debate as far as the female boxing was concerned. Anyway, Pete was put onto the boxing, and he does a bit on Fox Sports. Does a really good job now, Pete. But he went there, and he said, that, mate, there was about only a handful of journos there covering the early fights. Anyway, so next minute the Algerian fighter comes out, which a lot of the controversy was about as far as XY chromosomes should be fighting women and whatnot. And Pete is one of the only journos left in there. And what happens, of course, is going to be, which will always remembered as this famous protest, where the Algerian fighter landed a couple of punches on the Italian woman and she just threw her gloves off and left the ring. Now, this suddenly immediately becomes the biggest story in sport in the world. Probably for the next 24 hours, biggest story in the world.
Yeah.
And Pete, I believe, was the only one out the back. Anyway, he took a photo of the Italian girl and wrote a little bit about it. So what happens is later on that night, we're doing the podcast and we're going back to the hotel and Pete's going, he pulls the tweet out of nowhere. It's got 21 million views, right? Oh, and he goes, and believe me, he wasn't like bathing in the spotlight because it was for him. It's a very tough story to cover and a story that at the end had no winners in it. It was a really difficult thing, which you felt for all parties. But he's going, what about that? And he sit there and 5 minutes later, Matty, 25 million. By the time we got back to the hotel, it was like 45 million. Wow. Next morning, 60 million. By the time we went on air the next night, he was bathing a little bit. He's going, Matty, 93 million. Pete's bigger than Germany. I'm bigger than Germany, Matty. But what about that? So I think it ended up doing, I think Cooper was something like 97 million. Wow. 97 million views.
It shows how big the Olympics, like, because some of the things that come out of the Olympics, it was so big here, news here for a couple of days.
Well, I think the things that were trending at the time was Peter Badel and Donald Trump.
Peter Badel was trending.
He was trending because of the picture he put out. Now, I'll tell you the other thing. He was getting a lot of blowback, a lot of hate, as you'd imagine, because you write about a really sensitive issue. I said to Pete, does it really affect you? And he goes, Matty, not really. Do you remember the time that coach came up to me at the season launch and was calling me every name under the sun? He said, you'd have seen it. I just didn't care. And he did. There was another one, a coach come down the stands once at Wynn Stadium in front of the whole crowd and just starts abusing Pete Badel, screaming at him. And Pete goes, what I did, Matty, I just reached in the pocket, pulled my mobile phone out and just started recording him and quoted him on everything.
Oh, that is brilliant.
Brent Reed.
Yeah, the Reed man.
Reed's fantastic. Never met a person more obsessed with food. Like they say horses are the most mouth-obsessed creature in the world. Well, I'll counter that and say it is Brett Reed. You got no idea. He'd have these panic attacks at the end of the night. At 12:30, we'd finish the recording. Mate, you've got to get somewhere to eat. And we drive past place. He goes, there's a place. There's a place. It was crazy.
You got a tapeworm.
It was. We said that he got a tapeworm as thick as a wrist in his stomach. He had some. It was everywhere he went, because what the journos do, they pride itself. They keep a score at how many events they're at live and see an Aussie win a gold medal. Anyway, Rudy got up to one of the last nights of the swimming, did not see one person win a gold medal. Whenever they won a gold, the girls, he was never there. He'd go to the track, no golds. He'd go to an event, no golds. Even to the point, favourite to be there, he would turn up at an event where an Australian was a red-hot favourite, and they'd get beat or get injured. So he became the curse. But one night, the girls with the medley relay, with other red-hot favourites, he turned up. And I got a picture of him. He's just turning around, and he's just saluting. It was his only gold at the whole meet.
He must have been at the breakdancing as well when that ray gun got up and started dancing.
He's got some funny stories, Reedy. He'll tell you. He's one of those blokes who'll tell you a story that's not meant to be funny, but you find yourself on the ground just crying with laughter.
Yeah.
He's going to have. So he was saying, "Oh, when did you meet? Where'd you meet your wife?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, someone met us, hooked us up on a blind date." I said, "I must have went well." He goes, "Not really. She turned up with a boyfriend."
What?
And I went, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, there was a bit of sort of," he said, "something was sort of lost in translation and communication." Anyway, it was a blind date, but she turned up with a boyfriend at the time. But anyway,
How'd that end?
he must have done well to see.
Jesus, that's bizarre. That's how bizarre.
Yeah.
What about G-ups? Any G-ups on each other over there? Anyone stitch each other up?
Missile and I had a lot of fun. Missile was like mum, where I'd have a person lined up, so I'm going to do this. He'd go, "Oh, no, don't, Matty."
Yeah.
There was this group of about 5 Americans, and they're on we're on the train heading back into central Paris, and mate, they got the American like leather jacket sign. They got USA all the way. They're there to watch Katie Ledecky for the swimming. So I said to Missile, "What's this? What's this?" I go, "G'day, how was it, guys? You have a good night?" And they go, yeah, really, really good. And they go, "You guys swimmers?" And I said, "Yeah, this is like the Missile James Magnuson." "Oh my God, you're James Magnuson." "Oh, I knew a person who went to college when you were there." And "Oh yeah," and they point to me and say, "Oh, are you a swimmer?" And Missile goes, "Yeah, it's Ian Thorpe." Right? And they just paused and they went, "Oh wow," because Americans are so polite.
Yeah.
They didn't know. "Oh wow. Oh, you're not as tall as we thought." So we left them with that. Another day, went to the beach volleyball. And, mate, it was about 36 degrees. So I've got the towel, the wet towel, and I've got it sort of over my head, and I'm walking towards the beach volleyball. These 3 Americans go past. They recognise Missile, and they're talking to Missile again. Anyway, I got the towel, and they go, "Oh, yeah, it's a good idea with the towel, man. I got to do it." And I said, "Oh, no, I've just come back from the beach." Right? So Paris is 2.5 hours inland, right in the middle of France. And they go, "Oh, the beach. Is there a beach around here?" I said, yeah. So what you do is just when you go past the Eiffel Tower, just do a right there, walk for a K, and you'll go to the beach. Off they went.
Oh, you're a sad man.
I am a sad man.
That is. What about what's the highlight? Like, what's the one thing you'll never forget from Paris or from the Olympics or from your time over there?
Firstly, mate, the hospitality of the French people. The French have an unfair reputation of being quite rude.
Yeah.
But I've never found it. And the people over there were fantastic.
Were you trying to speak French?
Yeah, I made an effort, like bonjour, merci beaucoup, a baguette, poulet, jambon fromage.
Yep.
So that was the extent of it. But even just be nice and you go up and say, "Oh, bonjour, sorry." No, go, "Oh, no. It was really good."
Yeah.
The other thing was, mate, watching our girls winning gold after gold in the pool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ariane Titmus, Molly O'Callaghan, Kaylee McEwen, Em McKeon, Lonnie Pallister. It was pretty special. And the other thing was Dawn Fraser. That was a highlight in interview on our greatest Olympian, Dawn Fraser.
Yeah.
Is that she told us afterwards, revealed the revelation that they all had COVID, basically. Just about all the girls who were winning gold medals had COVID.
Yeah, COVID must have been pretty rampant there because I've seen that Noah Lyles, the sprinter, had it as well when he lost the 200.
Yeah.
Because he was supposed to be a shoo-in for the 200.
Yeah, he was, yeah. So COVID went through. Molly O'Callaghan, she missed her. You imagine this. You prepare for an event for 4 years. Morning of the 1,500-metre freestyle, she had come down with COVID and couldn't swim it.
I'll tell you right now, if I'm preparing for 4 years and I get COVID, I wouldn't pull out.
But
that's me. I'm built different.
Well, I think it got to the point with all the girls, they all suspected they all had it and said, "You know what? If you don't test, you ain't got."
Yeah, you'd have to.
A guy that really caught my eye, there was a fellow called Leon Marchand. He's a French swimmer who is on the cusp now, probably already is, this French, a 22-year-old guy, French legend already.
Yeah.
What he did was incredible. And the girls did this as well, but Marchand went gold. I think it was, he swam, I might get my events wrong here, so forgive me, the 200-metre butterfly, which is, mate, tough event, 200 butterfly. He wins gold. Gets up on the dais, the whole crowd in the swim centre, mate. You hear the French singing their national anthem. It was insane. He just stands there, quite sombre, steps off, walks off, and I say, "Geez, Leon was quite understated there. He goes, yeah, Matty, he's keeping his lids on his emotions. He's got to go back in there and prepare. In an hour's time, he's doing the 200 breaststroke.
Far out.
So
What
out
a
he
nightmare.
comes, an hour later, 200 breaststroke, wins gold again.
They're phenomenal athletes, the swimmers.
Yeah.
I will say, what a successful Olympics for Australia. Like, particularly even just the growth of some of these household names. Like, I'm not into a lot of those sort of sports, but names like Jess Fox, obviously. Like it's just absolutely
And
shot.
his sister Naomi.
Yeah, like it's just shot. Some of these athletes who have done an amazing job for Australia, their names are going to be up in light. Like they've turned into Australian icons.
Well, Japan just got us at the end there. We finished fourth as we looked like we were going to finish third. They just picked one lane, but to finish fourth, I mean, have a look at some of the countries above us. China, 1.2 billion.
Yeah,
America,
USA,
300 million. It's all around us here. Great Britain and France, the home nation.
Yeah,
we beat the home nation.
Yeah.
The other thing, Coop, which was a really controversial moment, was the men's 100-metre freestyle, which the Chinese swimmer, he broke the world record, right? He broke it by half a second in a pool that after the first day, Missile said, we're going to see very few world records. He goes, 2 reasons, the village, but also it looks like a slow pool. In that slow pool, the Chinese man, in the 100-metre freestyle, he broke the world record by half a second. A world record, Missile said, in that event hasn't been broken by that much since the 1920s.
Well, wasn't that broken when they used those performance-enhancing suits as well? Wasn't that what held the record? When they were in those full-body suits, which is now banned?
Yeah.
Which made it...
I'm not sure, Coops.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Brett, after it, and you've got to be really careful here. It's really tricky because it's like you go to events to see something remarkable happen. And sometimes with the Olympics, you go... Yeah, be remarkable, but not too remarkable.
Yeah.
So I don't want to stand here, as an Australian and just point the finger at China and saying, oh, mate, they're taking steroids because they beat it. But Brett Hawke, who's one of Australia's greatest swim coaches, the next day came out and said, what he did is not humanly possible.
Wow.
Now, a few days later, it was a 100-metre freestyle relay. He jumps in third. He's behind the Americans. And he's behind the French, who called Florent, Missile knew him, who is a French legend in swimming as well, right at the back end of his career. When he jumped in, he was a length behind the Frenchman. And Missile goes, he won't make that up. He beat him by a length. They said after it, experts said his time in that relay was mind-boggling.
Wow.
Now, when he won the 100 metres freestyle, I think Kyle Chalmers comes second.
Yep.
And after that freestyle, Missile goes, I'm just going to go down, because you could go a couple of metres away from the swimmers. And they were walking across to talk to press, and Missile yelled out, Kyle, good on you, mate, silver medal. He went, yeah. Then the Chinese swimmer come past, and mate, he had a bit of spunk and spark, which I liked about him. He was peacocking and strutting, but mate, his physique was unbelievable.
Wow.
It would have been like a 28-inch waist, if that, like ripped so much through the stomach, and then had this massive back. He was almost sort of, in a lot of ways, looked a little hunched over because his back was so big.
They got those big, broad shoulders, don't they?
But it's tricky. Again, you don't want to get there and just go, oh, mate, he's taking steroids. But if the experts are saying it, the other one, mate, a couple of things. The 100-metre sprint with Noel Lyles, who became a superstar before he went over because of that series on Netflix Sprint. When he arrived there, he walked in to the village and went, mate, the champ has arrived, or words to that effect.
Did he?
But then a few days later, Rodas came out and had an interview where he said, it's a nightmare. He said, I've got to wear disguises because of Sprint. All the other athletes just knew him and wanted photos and selfies and everything that was going on. So he turned up as this incredible extrovert, but toward the end it was too much. At the 100-metre sprint, we watched it. We said, mate, he's got beaten. Everyone thought the Jamaican had won. I think Noah Lyles actually thought the Jamaican had won because he went behind him and patted his back. Then it came up, and he beat him by something like one. Well, it came up registered 9.78 for both of them.
I didn't realise that they take the head and like upper torso before the feet, because the bloke's foot was over the line, the other bloke.
Hard thing
Insane.
to live with, the Jamaican to go the rest of your life going, if I just put my head
Yeah, if I didn't put
forward.
my foot forward.
The other one was Coop with the Jamaican female team, where the favourite in the 100, I think it was, she turned up and says that she was denied access because she didn't have the right accreditation. You'd think you'd be able to hold up the event a little bit because the favourites having a bit of trouble. She turned and just walked. Yeah. And the other one, I think it might have been the favourite in the 200, said she injured herself in the warm-up.
Something
Again,
dodgy.
Well, you don't know. But
Dodgy. Hey, we don't know, but you know what we can do?
Yeah.
We can speculate.
Well, to finish with, I'll just say this. I'll tell you
Yeah.
one reason why the athletes deserve even more respect than they've already got is that the village, the athletes' village they all stay in, every person, to a man, to a woman, said the conditions were terrible. Number one, well documented, the cardboard beds
Yeah.
they meant to sleep on, incredibly uncomfortable. But they reckon the food was horrendous. I was strolling around Paris and a young Kiwi bloke came up and said, "Oh, how you going, Matty?" And I said, "Oh, good. What are you over?" He said, "Oh, I'm in the New Zealand swim team." "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Listen, tell me about the village." He goes, "Oh," he said, "the cardboard beds are bad, but," he said, "the food is shocking."
So they don't let them out at all. Like if they want to go get food somewhere else, like they're just not allowed to leave.
Coops, I'm not exactly sure the rules.
Someone gives the food
But
was shit. Just go and get
They said
Macca's or
that the
something.
food was shocking. The portions was almost like the portions were so small. Like the Australian heavyweight fighter, he came out before it and said, "Mate, I usually eat 6 or 7 lamb chops for dinner. They gave me 2 and a little bit of salad."
Wow.
But the quality of the food, they said, was horrendous. Whatever happened to French cuisine, man?
Whatever happened to it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where all the best restaurants in the world, they say, are. Bloody hell.
Used to be.
That damn Olympic
They've
Village.
really let themselves down.
Well, Matthew, thanks
Well,
for
I'll
that.
say this to finish with missile was, mate, all the guys are vegan. Too many vegan agents. I mean, vegan. Anyway, all the vegans just went missile.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. It's basically the whole time he had the rest of the Olympics, he was just copping it off vegans.
Oh, bloody Missile. He's too controversial, mate, Missile. Mate, thank you for that. Good insight into Paris and the Olympics. Very successful gains for Australia in particular. Shout out to all the athletes who won gold. Fatso the Fat Ass Wombat. He'll be on Dad's show tomorrow night. Tune in on Thursday night. Hopefully, Roy or HG Nelson are on there. You can give it back to the owners. But whoever dropped it, Fatso off, thank you very much.
And thank you very much for looking after Fatso all those years.
Yeah, great Nick. It's good to see him.
A couple of scratches on the tail or around the shaminda. But apart from that, he's in good nick.
Yeah. Bit of pain over that. That'll be fine.
No pain, no gain.
Thanks, Matthew.